Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. You know, I love my coffee, and we get a lot of questions about espresso. So today we're going to be diving into the world of espresso beans using this article from Coffee at Corner. And I have to admit, I always thought espresso beans were, pretty simple. But I've been doing a little reading, and it turns out there's a whole lot more to it.
Yeah, there really is.
So let's unpack this together and figure out what makes these beans tick.
What's really interesting about espresso beans is that it's actually more about the roast and the grind rather than the specific type of bean.
Oh, okay.
It's all about how we prepare the beans for that really intense and flavorful shot that we call espresso.
So the article mentions two big names that I've always heard of, Arabica and Robusta. I feel like I see Arabica everywhere, so I just figured it was the go-to bean for espresso.
Right, and that's a pretty common misconception.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Arabica is super popular, but it's actually known for having a slightly more bitter flavor profile. When we think about that classic Italian espresso, the bean that's often used is actually Robusta.
Oh, wow.
It's that powerhouse bean that gives you that strong, intense flavor.
So that's where that, really intense, almost like a chocolatey flavor comes from? Is that Robusta bean?
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, wow. I did not know.
Robusta beans have almost double the caffeine compared to Arabica beans.
Oh, wow.
So that extra kick also contributes to that bolder flavor.
Huh.
And yeah, you often get those chocolatey notes coming through too.
Okay, this is already eye-opening. So the definitive guide to the 4 main types of coffee beans from our sources mentions that there are even more types of beans out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a whole bunch of different varieties of coffee beans out there, each with their own unique characteristics.
Okay.
But when it comes to espresso, we're really focusing on that dynamic duo of Arabica and Robusta.
Okay.
Those are the stars of the show.
Sticking with those two then, the article mentions Italian espresso and Americano coffee, even Chardonnay espresso. Are those different types of beans?
This is where the terminology can get a little tricky.
Okay.
Those terms are actually describing different drinks that you can make with espresso.
Oh, okay.
They're not referring to a type of bean.
Gotcha.
So think of it like the bean sets the stage for the flavor,
Okay.
but the way you prepare it really determines the final coffee experience.
So Italian espresso is just talking about the way it's made, not the bean itself.
Exactly. It usually refers to a traditional shot of espresso,
Oh, wait.
and often they lean heavily on Robusta beans for that bold Italian flavor.
Okay.
And Americano is just espresso diluted with hot water, so you get a longer, milder drink.
Okay.
And Chardonnay espresso, well, that sounds like it's probably some specialty drink with added flavors.
Okay.
Not a true type of espresso in the traditional sense.
Got it. So the bean lays the groundwork, and then it's all about how you brew it to create that specific drink. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Now the article talks about using a mocha pot for brewing. Have you ever used a mocha pot?
I have.
They look so simple.
They are. Mocha pots are a really great way to make espresso-style coffee at home, especially if you don't want to invest in a full-blown espresso machine.
I've always been curious about those, so how does it work?
Okay, so you start by filling the bottom chamber of the pot with water.
Okay.
Then you add finely ground coffee to the filter basket,
Okay.
ideally a blend that's specifically made for espresso.
Okay.
But don't pack it in too tight.
Got it.
So you have water in the bottom, coffee in the middle, and then you screw the top chamber on top nice and tight.
Okay.
Now you put the whole thing on the stovetop over medium-high heat.
Okay.
The heat creates pressure that forces the water up through the coffee grounds and into the top chamber.
Oh, wow.
You'll hear a gurgling sound as the coffee starts to brew.
So we wait for the gurgling to stop, and then we have espresso.
Almost.
Yeah.
Once the gurgling stops, take it off the heat.
Okay.
Most of the water has been pushed through the coffee, and then you have a fresh pot of delicious strong coffee.
That sounds a lot easier than I imagined. I might have to get myself one of those. But before I run out and buy a mocha pot, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned about these fascinating beans.
Sounds good.
So we started by dispelling the myth that espresso bean is just one thing.
Right.
We talked about the differences between Arabica with that little hint of bitterness and then Robusta, the powerhouse behind the Italian espresso experience.
Exactly.
And we learned that Italian espresso is all about how it's made, not some special bean.
Right. It's understanding the difference between the bean itself and how we transform it into the final cup.
I'm already so much more knowledgeable about espresso beans,
Good.
but I feel like we've only scratched the surface here.
Oh yeah, we have a lot more to cover.
What else can you tell me about these espresso beans? Where do they even come from, and how does that impact their flavor? I'm ready to dive even deeper.
Okay, well that's where it gets really interesting. Just like with wine, The origin of the beans plays a huge role in shaping that final flavor.
Yeah.
Just like with wine, the origin of the beans plays a huge role in shaping that final flavor.
Oh, wow. So like a French roast or something like that?
Well, it goes even deeper than that. We call it terroir.
Terroir.
It's a fancy word for all the environmental factors that contribute to the bean's flavor.
Oh, okay.
So where it's grown, the soil, the climate, the altitude, even the plants growing nearby, it all makes a difference.
So each cup of espresso has its own story to tell based on where those beans came from.
Exactly.
That's wild. But with so many different places growing coffee beans, how do you even begin to
It
choose?
can definitely be overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's why it helps understand the general flavor profiles of different regions.
Okay.
For instance, let's say you love those rich chocolatey notes we were talking about.
Right.
I'd recommend exploring beans from Sumatra or Guatemala.
Sumatra.
Yeah. Sumatran beans are known for their earthy, full-bodied taste with hints of dark chocolate, while Guatemalan beans often have a smooth, balanced flavor with notes of cocoa and spice.
Oh, okay. So Sumatra or Guatemala for the chocolate lovers.
Exactly.
What about if you want something a little brighter and fruitier?
If you're after those bright, fruity flavors, Ethiopian beans are a great choice.
Ethiopian beans. Okay.
They often have these delicate floral aromas and hints of citrus or berries.
Wow.
Kenyan beans are another excellent option, known for their bright acidity and black currant flavors.
You're making me want to go on a coffee tasting journey right now.
You should.
And you mentioned that the terroir impacts the flavor. So are you talking about specialty coffee shops here?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
While specialty shops are a great place to discover unique and high-quality beans, you can definitely find a decent selection in well-stocked grocery stores, too.
Okay.
Just look for bags that clearly state the bean's origin and roast level.
Okay, so we've got our beans.
Yeah.
What's the next step in this espresso journey?
The grind.
The grind. Oh, okay.
The grind is super important for extracting all those delicious flavors from your beans.
Okay.
And when it comes to espresso, you want a very fine grind, almost like powdered sugar.
Okay.
This allows for optimal extraction. That's the process of dissolving those flavorful compounds from the coffee grounds into the water.
Oh, okay.
And it's important for espresso because the brewing time is so short.
So it's got to be a quick extraction.
Exactly.
Now, I've heard that you should use a burr grinder for espresso.
That's right.
Can you tell me why?
Burr grinders are considered the gold standard because they deliver a consistent grind.
Okay.
They use two rotating burrs to crush the beans
Mm-hmm.
instead of slicing them like those blade grinders do.
Right.
This creates a more uniform particle size, which is essential for even extraction and a balanced flavor in your espresso.
So blade grinders are no good.
You can use a blade grinder in a pinch.
Okay.
It's just not ideal.
Gotcha.
They tend to produce an uneven grind, which can lead to overextraction of some flavors and underextraction of others, which can make the coffee taste a little off.
So consistent grind equals consistent flavor.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how all these little details really work together to create that perfect cup of espresso.
Yeah, it's a fascinating interplay of factors.
Right.
From the bean itself to the grind, the brewing method, and even the water quality.
Wow.
All these elements play a role in shaping the final cup.
Now I'm really seeing the art behind espresso making.
Absolutely.
It's not just pushing a button.
Oh, definitely not.
Speaking of the art of espresso, have you ever thought about the history of it?
All the time.
Like, how did we even get to this espresso craze?
It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Espresso actually originated in Italy back in the late 19th century.
Oh, wow.
People wanted a quicker, more concentrated coffee experience.
So it was all about speed and efficiency.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
Early espresso machines were designed to brew individual cups rapidly,
Wow.
catering to that fast-paced Italian lifestyle.
I can just picture those old Italian cafes. The aroma of freshly brewed espresso filling the air as people rush in and out.
That's a perfect image.
Right.
It captures the essence of espresso culture, a culture that spread far beyond Italy's borders to become a global phenomenon.
It really has.
And the evolution continues with advancements in technology and a growing appreciation for specialty coffee. The world of espresso is constantly expanding and innovating.
That's so cool. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the different types of beans and where they come from to the ins and outs of grinding and brewing.
Right.
But there's one key part of espresso that we haven't talked about yet. the crema.
Ah, yes, the crema, that beautiful velvety layer that sits on top of a perfect shot.
It's so pretty.
It's more than just looks, though. It actually holds a lot of the flavor and aroma compounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what exactly is crema and how does it just magically appear?
Crema is essentially an emulsion of tiny CO2 bubbles suspended in coffee oils.
Oh, wow.
It's created during the high-pressure brewing process,
Oh.
when hot water is forced through those finely ground coffee beans.
Okay.
And that pressure is key.
Gotcha.
It forces the CO2 that's trapped inside the coffee beans to dissolve into the water, creating those tiny bubbles that form the crema.
So the pressure creates the bubbles, and then the bubbles hold all those delicious flavors and aromas. It's like the
Yes.
essence of the espresso is captured in that creamy layer.
It is.
I've also noticed that crema can be different colors and textures.
Uh-huh.
What causes that?
The color and texture of the crema can actually tell you a lot about the coffee.
Oh, really?
A light brown, thin crema often indicates a lighter roast,
Okay.
while a darker brown, thicker crema suggests a darker roast.
Oh, interesting.
A well-formed crema that sticks around for a while.
Okay.
That's generally a good sign that the espresso has been properly extracted.
So next time I'm at a coffee shop, I'm going to have to pay way more attention to the creamer.
Should.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's your personal favorite way to enjoy espresso?
That's a tough one. I appreciate espresso in all its forms,
Right.
but if I had to pick just one, I'd say a classic cappuccino is hard to beat.
A cappuccino.
The balance of the espresso, the steamed milk, and that delicate layer of foam, it's just perfect.
It's so good.
What about you?
I have to admit, I'm a sucker for a well-made latte.
Oh, yeah.
I just love how the smooth, velvety milk complements that intensity of the espresso.
It's classic for a reason.
It really is. Speaking of lattes, I've actually been making my own iced lattes at home lately.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a total game changer.
Nice. What's your secret?
High quality coffee, first of all. I
Uh-huh.
use cold brew concentrate,
Okay.
and then a good milk frother.
Gotcha.
I've found that oat milk makes a really creamy iced latte.
Oat milk.
Yeah, it's been my go-to summer drink.
Interesting. I'll have to try that.
You should.
It's cool how all these different espresso drinks are evolving
Yeah,
with new innovations and flavor combinations.
totally. It makes you realize how much espresso has changed the whole coffee scene.
It really has. The rise of espresso has sparked a whole new wave of coffee appreciation.
Huh.
There's a focus on quality and craftsmanship and all those nuanced flavors that we've been talking about.
Right.
It's like espresso took coffee from just a drink to an art form.
I love that analogy.
It's true.
Just like espresso opened up a whole new world for coffee lovers.
Right, and that shift in thinking has had a ripple effect on the entire coffee industry.
Yeah.
From the way beans are sourced and roasted
Uh-huh.
to how cafes are designed,
Right.
even the tools we use to brew coffee at home, it's all been influenced by espresso.
It's amazing how one thing can lead to so much change.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the coffee either. It's
Yeah.
about the whole experience.
Yeah.
The rituals, the social connections, just the pure enjoyment of it all.
It's true. Espresso has become a symbol of a certain lifestyle,
Okay.
one that values slowing down and savoring the moment and connecting with others over this shared passion for coffee. It's like a little piece of Italian culture that's made its way into our everyday lives.
I love that. And it's so true.
It is.
No matter where you are in the world, you can find people in cafes enjoying espresso and taking a moment to connect.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's a testament to how much we love coffee all around the world.
Right.
And it speaks to that human need for connection,
Yeah.
finding those little moments of pleasure in the midst of our busy lives.
It's incredible how a simple shot of espresso can make you think about all these things.
It is.
It's like a reminder to slow down and appreciate the little things.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect note to end on.
I agree. So to all our listeners out there, cheers to savoring every sip,
Cheers.
embracing the art of coffee, and continuing to explore this amazing beverage.
Couldn't have said it better myself. May your coffee be strong, your crema be perfect,